Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Goal Lounge. We are coming to you live today from our VIP lounges, our goal lounges. Mosa's got a clinker brick there because, you know, his team brought the solid defense this weekend. We've also got the other lads. we've got Wonga, who stepped up his game today. He's got a headphone, he's got a background, he's got his shirt on, he's even got sound, ladies and gentlemen. The man, and we can see him. That's the best part about it. Lolo's in his casual spot, as he is, you know, wearing his Red United shirt, the shirt we don't all like. We've got Matthew, Wate sitting there in the background. And then we've got Nick. Oh, look. And yeah. Matthew's very happy. And then Nick, he's super chilled as well. You can see who had good weekends and who didn't have good weekends. Yeah. So let's kick. Oh, before we start anything, guys, don't forget to like, don't forget to subscribe, hit the notification buttons, because obviously the more you guys do that, the more we're able to chat to you guys online. So, but before we go anywhere, we're gonna start off with this banger. The 6-1. The 6-1. Let's get oopsie. Excuse me. Oh, we got some technical issues. Okay. Nope, that's not working. We're going to start off with the United 6-1. Yeah, kick us off.
I just want to ask
Sello, I think you need to speak to him.
Yeah, remember that front six discussion that we were talking about at the beginning of the shows before the season kicked off?
Yeah.
How's that front six looking between Tottenham and Man United?
Well, the Spurs played well, man. Very well. You know what I mean? I even said last week that if Son wasn't playing, I felt confident, but Son played, you know what I mean? I said that last week, don't you remember? I said if Son wasn't playing, then I would feel confident, and I thought he was going to play, but obviously he recovered from his injury, because I knew that the combination of Son and Kane had done well already this season and would cause problems. So obviously, discussions that were had in the first show compared to what was said last week. I think what was said last week is obviously something that you would rather listen to and take to heart. But yeah, no, Tottenham played very well. Mourinho, tactician, you know. But also it's quite easy to outsmart a coach like Solskjaer. Solskjaer only has one type of tactic, and he can't change his tactics. You know what I mean? You know, aside from the red card in itself, you know, Tottenham would have still won by a 3-goal margin, even if Mosa stayed on the field. Like, it would have been probably like 4-1, probably. But still, Tottenham still won if it was 11 versus 11, because Tottenham were before the red card and after the red card. You know, Man United were literally the better team for 2 minutes, probably, of that whole game. Just for 2 minutes, just to start, and then from there on, the floodgates opened up. Was a great game from Tottenham. Man United, after the red card, they should have changed their defensive shape. They shouldn't have pressed as much. But yeah, Solskjaer, with his poor in-game management, just kept on pressing, which doesn't make sense. You know, you press and you've got one less player, and it left Serge Aurier free always. Serge Aurier was always free. He was an outlet on the right-hand side. You know what I mean? Like, every time ball will be played, and then all of a sudden it gets switched to Serge Aurier. And then also another tactic that Solskjaer should have changed was the whole passing from the back when you're down to 10 men. While I kick the ball up front, play it in their half, but you still want to play out from the back. So, for instance, you know, you saw that third goal is that Mourinho obviously told his players, he told Son and he told Kane, he doesn't want to play from the back, and they're not the best at playing from the back, and just make sure that you catch them out. And what happened? Bailly still tried to play from the back. That's also a stupid pass. You know, he's playing. There's about 3 players around Matic, and he still tries to play to Matic, and then it gets cut off by Kane, and then obviously gets passed to Son, and then Son passes back to Kane, and it's a goal. So it was quite naive from Solskjaer. He showed his inexperience as a manager. Poor. Like, you can't be coaching like that. You know what I mean? But yeah, no, let's not take away anything from Tottenham. You know, Tottenham played well. They were better team on the side, and as I said, 11 against 11, they still would have won by a good margin.
Yeah, I think Sello, you had a good 5 minutes there where you laid down the problems. I think you planned it from the weekend. You were like, hey, this is coming for me. Let me just get it all out the way, and then we're going to let the other lads jump on you. I'm so surprised that you guys didn't interrupt and didn't. You were so, everyone is too civil here. They let him finish.
I'm speaking, but because I'm speaking facts. You know what I mean? If I was talking rubbish, someone will come on and say, hey, man, you're talking rubbish.
No, the one thing I disagree maybe slightly with was the idea that Son was the only big factor. I think that, well, I mean, you did touch on it too. Spurs would have won 11v11 through the whole game. For me, the game was won and lost in the midfield. I think there's a lot of talk about United's defence, but the reason they were under so much pressure was because United's midfield they weren't in the game. It was a masterstroke from Mourinho, the three he chose, Sesele, Ndombele and Sissoko. They're strong. You know, they get in your face, they really get involved in the game, and they took the game to United midfield, and that's what put the defence under so much pressure. But I agree with you, they changed tactics. They shouldn't have kept trying to pass it out when they could see they were losing that so badly. You know, you couldn't have asked, as a Spurs fan and as a Spurs team, I don't think we could have asked for a more accommodating setup from the opposition side. As you said, Aurier had free reign. He was constantly available on the side. It was a constant outlet, constant threat. And because it was always there, he was dragging players out of position, and there was just so much room. And as you said, the Kane and Son show was back. They've got a really good connection at the moment. They just seem to, without looking, know where the other guy is. And it all came together really well. I mean, from a first perspective, other than the opening 2 minutes where we were potentially slightly flat-footed, but in some ways that might have been a blessing. I think maybe if you guys hadn't had that Ernie penalty, we might not have woken up in quite the manner we did. But it's impossible to know for sure, obviously. But other than those first sort of 2 minutes, it just it was all one-way traffic, and it felt really easy. And it's weird. We've been in the position where we've been beating United by 3 goals at half-time in the past, and we haven't won. And you always feel that you're watching Spurs play, we can be 3 goals ahead, but if there's still a long time to go, you sort of feel, oh, maybe this could still turn. I never felt that way, this time around. It never felt like United were going to hurt us. It really wasn't United. It really was not watching the United side. We were at Old Trafford and we were dominating in every part of the pitch. It was phenomenal. Yeah. I mean, it's one of those games I'm going to look back on for the rest of my life and remember. And I got to watch it with my sons, and it was amazing. We were screaming, but if you think about it, it's United at Old Trafford. It shouldn't have gone that way. It shouldn't have felt that way. It shouldn't have felt so easy. There was no after the equaliser. There was never another point where I was worried about the game. It was amazing. It was incredible. The team played phenomenally. I mean, Spurs all over the pitch, where every single player did what they had to do in a clinical and really kind of targeted way.
Pure
they
class.
Really with what was there. And they saw that the midfield was nowhere. They dominated that. They saw the defence were flustered and they were pressing them. Every time the United defenders had the ball, they were running at them and making them make bad decisions. And they
put them under pressure. And you fed off the mistakes, you know what I mean? Like literally also that the goal for Son when Kane took the early free kick. Like we all know, you're supposed to stand in front of the free kick taker, or take the ball and put it in your hand, or throw it in the air, something, and you literally just stepping away where your defensive shape is not right. Bailly was on the side, you know what I mean, and then Son was in the middle, and that was just obviously Son's pace just went right through. So you guys, you exploited our weak points. Man. So it was
quick question.
I've got a question, Sello. Tell me about Harry Maguire, bro.
Yo.
Yeah.
What does that guy do? He's headering the ball on his own player there. He's like, what does he think?
And pulling his own player down and everything.
80 million pounds. 80 million pounds.
Well, I remember when we were chatting about Virgil van Dijk, and we were talking about him being that +1 player, and in his presence in the team, it kind of adds something. It's almost like having an extra player just because of who he is. And you think for the amount of money you spend on Maguire, you're getting that +1. And he's never been a +1, but on this game, he was actually a -1. He was constantly putting actually doing detriment to the defense. I mean, pulling Shaw down, being in the wrong place. He's never been a pacey defender. Yeah, he was, and I think to a certain extent, some of the criticism he gets is a little bit unfair because it's related simply to the fee involved. But this weekend, he actually showed that regardless of the fee, if you'd got him for 15 million, it would have been too much. You know, he was not.
He made a stupid mistake. You know, for a person that is a good header, you cannot be headering a ball like that back to the goalkeeper and doesn't even make it to the goalkeeper. You know what I mean?
What did you want to say, Wonga?
Yeah, look, I see Maguire. Look, when he played in the last World Cup, even the keeper as well, Pickford, they played very, very well in that World Cup. I don't know if it's the players are around, whatever, but Maguire had a good World Cup for me watching him. And now playing, as soon as he got signed for Man United, I don't know, he's been going down. But I can tell you this, and you know, being an Arsenal fan, supporter, watching, is that if they don't change Maguire or try and do something, it's going to continue. Like, we had the same problem. We've had the same problem for years at Arsenal. And you think, okay, no, the guy's going to improve. He's going to improve. Nothing happens. I think Thomas Vermaelen started well, and then he started dipping form. Obviously, he had injuries, didn't help him as well. I know Kolshani, I think he started improving. I mean, that's a rare case. And then the guys after that, who was that? Mustafi, also, I think 1 or 2 games good. The rest, horrible. And the other defenders started bringing in after that, horrible. The only way for me, I see it, change Maguire, take him off. I know he's captain, but take him off, put someone on, give them a chance.
That's what Bruno Fernandes said at half time, which is why I got taken off.
But do you guys think the problem is... Yeah, is it only that problem? Is it only just Maguire that's a problem there at Man United? Or I was looking at Man United and I couldn't see too many things working out well.
No, man. You know what I found? No, hold on. So I want to, what I found very interesting was that within the first 20 minutes, that game was it started in an unusual manner. They got a penalty within the first 36 seconds. That doesn't happen every day. But the game was incredibly open. You'd never say that was a game between 2 really big teams. And that's where the difference between you say, okay, you got Mourinho, who is like a tactician of note. He's astute. He knows exactly the play. The difference was Tottenham knew exactly what they were doing, and Man United were all over the place. And now we are singling out Maguire, sure, because I mean he was awful and he can't hide from it. But the fact is, the way in which United approached the game didn't help his case. For a man who doesn't have any pace, like. They're also getting caught up in that system where Liverpool have to where Liverpool and the likes of Aston, all these guys now playing this progressive high line sort of football. That's never going to help a Maguire. And it always feels like when a game's that exposed or that open, a player like that will get exposed. You guys need to be more compact. You need to be sitting deeper, and that just wasn't the case in the weekend.
And for me, it comes back to that good question. You know, if you're gonna play a system is an entire team-wide system. You can't expect the defense to do an entire thing on its own. And the midfield had a role to play in that. You got to play a defender like Maguire there, who has his strengths and weaknesses that were on full display in the game. The midfield weren't doing enough of holding the ball. They weren't creating enough. They weren't putting Spurs under pressure. You know, Pogba and Fernandes, they were very quiet. They were very standoffish. They were being dominated by the Spurs midfield. And I think that's where a lot of the problems came. A lot of the situations where the United defense found themselves under pressure was when the midfield were absent. And I think it's not so much changed the defensive defenders that are in there, but also talk about the entire system. Are they even as an entire team playing the right system for the personnel they've got on the field?
Yeah,
and it goes.
That's the coaching problem. That's the problem with the coach. The coach is a person who sets up his team, and also the coach needs to realize that one thing I've realized with Solskjaer is that he can't make the big decisions. You know what I mean? Like for instance, in this start of the season, Pogba hasn't started well. You know what I mean? He came back from coronavirus, didn't have a preseason. Rather put the guy aside and put him as a substitute. You know what I mean? There's nothing wrong with doing that. You know what I mean? Put the guy off. Play Fred. Fred has got a lot of energy. He had a preseason. Rather play him, and then Pogba can come off the bench. You know what I mean? Rather think about these things. You know what I mean? You know, previously
there was Mata who did well during the cup midweek. He scored. He didn't get a chance again.
Yeah, exactly. So such things. So he's so set in his ways where he doesn't adjust, and he's very predictable in what he's going to do. He will set up, like, as a coach, you're going to play Man United. You know how Solskjaer's going to set up. There's no surprise that he would offer in his lineup or in his formation. He's just going to set up the same way, and that's something that's always been lacking, and it's always been something that he's been caught out with in the big games last season, especially, and yeah, obviously this season as well. Just practically every game he's been caught out, So he's numbered definitely, and let's see what happens. Last season, when his days were numbered, he would go on a run and be undefeated. So let's see how he reacts after the international break.
Yeah,
you're hoping for another undefeated run from Man United.
I'm saying let's see how he reacts. You know what I mean? He's the coach.
That's a difficult thing, man.
They won't lose this weekend.
Yeah, they're safe this weekend.
Perfect game for them this weekend.
Matt, was that the best game you've seen Spurs play? Was that like one of your top highlights as a Spurs fan?
It's right up there. I mean, there's been amazing games. It's the cool thing about supporting a team like Spurs is the games that come like that are relatively far between, especially the last couple of years. So there have been some incredible games, some emotional games and that. But this was, in a way, this was less emotional because it was so one-sided. So it was amazing to watch, and it was really, I mean, who's going to be upset with their team scoring 6 at Old Trafford against United? You're not going to complain. But at the same time, it was. There have been games where we've won by closer margins that have felt like they meant more. The 5-4 against Arsenal was we were losing, we were winning, we were back in it, we were out the game, and then that one provoked more in me. Same with the semi-final against Ajax last 2 years ago. It was we were out the game and then we were back. Those are the ones that really that stick with the memory, the emotional roller coaster. This one, from about the 10th minute, we knew we were winning. And it never felt different from the rest of the game. So, I mean, I'll always remember it. I'm always going to be talking to my sons about the time I nearly threw them through the ceiling when we went 5-1 up, but...
Don't give them another big head. United aren't coping well with theirs.
Yeah, exactly. It was a great, fantastic weekend. I fully expect Spurs to come out and have either a really boring 1-0 loss or some boring 0-0 draw really soon, because that's what we do, but for this weekend, it was good.
On another note, where I know we scrutinized Maguire a little bit, but there was that incident that at halftime, Bruno Fernandes comes off, and a couple of days later, they say the man literally had a go at Maguire. They had a scuffle. He belittled him. He told him he wasn't worthy of the United shirt, never mind the armband. So I'm curious as to see how that unfolds moving forward, Sello. What do you think will happen in that dynamic where you clally have a quality player in the likes of a Bruno Fernandes who knows what he's doing? He's a winner. He's a competitor. And then he's got a guy who's got the armband at the back and he's doing clownish things at the back there. So, how do you think these things will move forward going on? How does Ole manage this? Because let's be honest, the only reason he still got his job is because Klopp did him a favor. But we'll talk about that later.
We'll see what happens. Obviously, those are rumors. If they're true, they're true. If they're not, whatever. He's had a disagreement. He's had a on-field disagreement with Lindelof before, so they'll obviously together. Solskjaer will obviously bring them together and just try and get them on the same page again. I think he was just frustrated and probably just taking out his frustrations on someone who had made 2 errors in that first half, So, man, these things happen in football, man. I think didn't Lloris fight with Son the other time? So these things happen in football, man. So, man, it's good for the team as well. You can't have a team where you just accept defeat. You need to scream at one another and say, hey, what are you doing? There's also where De Gea was literally screaming at Shaw and saying, look, no. And then Shaw went out of position and Son got in for the goal. You know what I mean? So these things are part of football. You need to hold your teammates to account for their errors, and they just need to know that, hey, man, listen, pull your socks up as well.
And you want it to hurt the players as much as it hurts us. I mean,
yeah, definitely.
I don't want them to walk off like, You know, I want them to feel it the way I do. And I think for Liverpool, that was Carragher. You know, you could see him, every loss hurt him. And I think that's what makes us love our teams, you know. And
passion, the guys have passion,
yeah. Otherwise, you know, you don't. As much as it is a job to them, I don't want it to look like they're just doing a job when they're doing it. I want to feel like they're doing this. So.
Yeah, but that's the thing. And I'm going to pose the question to Nick here and Mosa. And in terms of being a player, when you know you've had a stinker and you're the captain, and you've had another player literally have a go and undermine you in front of everyone else, what do you do then in that scenario? Do you actually want to go out second half and really try your best, or do you just want to say, listen, like, you know what? I know you're a better player than I am. Just go out there and you take the armband and let's see if it improves a little bit.
Yeah, I don't know. It's a tough one when you're a manager of a side. You know, I don't know the ins and outs. I didn't actually know that he was taken off for that reason. But I mean, you know, as a player, you know, it maybe shows you Maguire if he has to come out, for example, and sort of show why he is a leader. You know, when the tough gets, when the times are tough, you know, that's when a true leader sort of shows his true character. So it is a tricky one. I mean, managing a situation like that. I mean, I personally have no problem when players are having goes at each other because I know that they actually care then. Because if they're just coming off after being 4-0 down or whatever it was, 4-1 down, you know, and everyone's just happy as Larry, then there's an actual issue because then they're actually not playing for the badge. It is tricky when you're captain and the person everyone's should be turning to is having a stinker. It is a tough one. It is a tough one. I don't know.
I think like teams generally
away from him. I don't know.
Yeah, I think teams generally should have players that do have that type of character, that do pose these questions and do test everybody else around them. That's how you sometimes bring the best out of certain best players in the team. You can't have a team that's literally just led by one guy, and if he's having a stinker, nobody reacts. It wouldn't galvanize anybody in the team or actually push the team forward. So the manager's job in that instance is to ensure that there is the tension is there, it is real, it is aware from all parties, but then to make sure that they still work cohesively afterwards. You don't really have to be friends with your teammate. You
I think
assigned a job.
Mourinho fixed that problem at Spurs. If you've watched that All or Nothing program, he actually comes in and says, you guys are a bunch of nice guys. And he's like, nice guys don't win. And he says you need a bunch of you guys need to be a bunch of bastards on the field. You know, and at the end of the day, I mean, probably to your teammates as well as to the opposition, you need to, you know, at the end of the day, you got 90 minutes to go and do your job. You don't, like Mosa says, you don't need to be friends with your colleagues. You just got to go get the job done because you get paid for it. So if that means pulling someone by the scruff of the neck and saying, "Hey, get your shit in order," then I've got no problem with that.
Well, to be fair, Maguire did do that to his own play. He did pull them by the scruff of the neck, and that's what led to the goal. But I want to talk about the other part in terms of the sending off, guys. The sending off, the Martial. I mean, we know Matt commented on Twitter. He enjoyed that moment in terms of having a shithouse player, in terms of the likes of Lamela. We know why Martial gets sent off, because in football, these things happen. When you get caught, even though it's very ironic. If you get caught, you're the one that ends up going to jail. That's just how it is. But the scenario in terms of we have VAR now. How does VAR not help in the scenario where you go, well, the first player, the player who's instigated this whole thing, has gone down, has started it, yet now because the ref has seen the other guy doing it, he's the only one that gets sent off. Why does that not get called into question?
That's the flaw of VAR, I think. Like, it seems like, you know, it catches a lot of things, but like some things are still left to interpretation, and the interpretations are then completely incorrect. If you ask me, that instance, both players were in the wrong. Both players were at fault, and Martial, in my view, was at lesser fault because he is retaliating more than actually instigating the actual event. But it really does raise questions about VAR's worth and value. It's very good at times, but in those instances, it really doesn't help VAR's cause at all.
And that was simple. That was a simple decision. It wasn't anything complicated or anything. It was just It is a simple, straightforward thing. There, it was. You could see both. Lamela put a hand up. He puts a hand up. Okay, he gets a red. Okay, other player should get a red, or they both get a yellow.
But also
There's nothing
the
difficult.
Anthony Taylor as a referee, guys, needs to take a bit of a break, guys. He red carded incorrectly in the FA Cup final, guys. Kovacic should have never done it off. You know what I mean? So he's had this in the last 3 months. You know what I mean? So and
No, I agree with you as well. The
and
refs
also
are doing
Martial
bad, they must get punished.
it wasn't even a punch. It was literally a touch to the face like this, and it's nothing that
Nah,
was
that
taking
was
the man down. And
that was a-
obviously, the one part of
that was a
like,
good one. No, that was a good slap.
falls. You know what I mean? You know, it's just and then he falls. You know? But hey, man, what can you say? That's how you sometimes get stuff to your advantage. But hey, man, and Mourinho took him off. I think he knew that if he made a challenge, that the ref would probably just give him another yellow and send him off.
Yeah. But the thing is also, like, so it was a very dubious red. I mean, I'll freely admit it. It was a very, very questionable decision, especially given the fact that then even after VAR there was nothing to Lamela, and there is, you know, they maybe they both should have just got yellows and be done with it. But also, then there's the other question: you're preparing for a game with Spurs. You know that game is coming. You know what Lamela's going to do. You know, he is that part of his game. A big part of his game is the shit housing, and he gets in players' faces and he winds them up and that. And you would have thought that the team would be prepared. They'd know. You get him in the box and you get around his face. He's going to do that to you. He's going to cause a problem. Don't rise to it. Stay. You know. I would have thought if I was a professional footballer, that's the thing I'd expect to be told to get ready for and prepare for.
Yeah.
And it was early in the game. It's not like he'd been winding Martial up for 80 minutes and then he
for
just
the whole
lost.
day.
Yeah, it was like it was.
But you know what? Okay, like I was posing the question with VAR, from a principal perspective, in terms of all these things that are happening within football, and they're always going to happen. But I'm more okay with them happening when VAR is not in the question, because you can't control everything, because then it's completely subjective and these things happen. But when a scenario where it's meant to be objective and there's meant to be control, I think that's where I've got a problem with all of this, because it's still not being used correctly. But I think as to the point of Martial actually doing what he's done, going, should he be prepared for Lamela doing this? Yes, these guys should be prepared. At the end of the day, they are human. The other thing is you got to see how the game was going at that point in time. They weren't in control of the game. Martial had 1 or 2 touches at the most. He was incredibly frustrated, and then there was a guy acting like a baby, and that's hardly professional, but it is human. And that's the reality. I mean, I would be appalled if I was the manager, but that's just one of those things that happen. Nick, being a coach and coaching your youngsters, if you had to have a youngster, like Matt just said in this scenario, where you go, you're going to play this guy, he's going to cause shit, and he's going to get into your face, and you've got a player who's very temperamental. I would often get told, oh, we know you're Portuguese, we know you're hot-blooded, Claudio, you need to calm down. I'm like, yo, man, I'd often get told that. But how would you manage that situation, and how would you react to your player still coming up?
I actually had that incident. We went and played in Sweden a few years ago, and we played a Brazilian team, 2-0 up at half-time. Cut a long story short, we knew they were rolling around, they were pinching the boys, they were swearing at their mothers, they were doing everything that they needed to do. And I said, don't, you got 25 minutes, you go to the next round, and probably 5 minutes into the second half, one of the lads just clocks one of their players in the face, and then red card. End of the story is we lost on penalties. So I've experienced it, and when you're playing sort of continental players, if you want to call them that, that's how they're brought up. That's how they learn how to play football. And I would, if I was Solskjaer, I would have been livid. I know he was livid with the fact that Lamela was sort of the perpetrator, but I mean, it's just so stupid. Like, don't lift your hand to someone's face. I know it's a natural reaction. We're all human, but that's criminal for me. I mean, if it's 11v11, Man United might have lost, but you probably still have a bit of dignity at the end of it. You might not have lost 6-1. But I think he let his team down, even though it was probably soft. I've experienced it firsthand, and it's hard to take because it changes the game completely. Your tactics are out the window. The way you want to play, your strategy changes. So when players, they have to, and it's all about being disciplined, I guess. So yeah, I would be upset with Martial if I was Solskjaer.
Yeah.
And to Nick's point, like these guys have experienced that like on several occasions on various platforms. They know that incidents like that won't go under the carpet. It's something that's going to come up. Somebody from one of the cameras will see it. The linesmen are there. Everybody's there. It's guilty. They shouldn't be doing that. They know better.
Before
I mean, you wouldn't
get away with it, but now you can't, man.
Yeah, I mean, you wouldn't go to work and swear at your boss, for example, no matter how much they frustrated you, unless you were prepared to get fired. It's the same sort of principle. These guys are doing a job. Anyway, now the thing that I've been dreading, and the thing that Wonga could actually open up with, he showed me something before. He showed me what Liverpool are missing this weekend.
Oh, yes. And here's your man in a box.
Put it closer.
Alisson.
The goalkeeper.
Alisson was the missing link, guys. Nah, there was a couple. There was a lot wrong.
Here. If you guys want to do anything wrong.
He worth 7 goals on his own. I don't know.
Yeah,
you guys know why Liverpool lost. Wonga had managed to capture Alisson. He's got him in the box at home. I don't know what he's doing.
I think you see the first goal, and I think that's where it starts. Adrian, the easiest pass was who was on that left hand side? I think it was Robertson. He opened up for him nicely there, and he passes across the goal. Everyone knows that's a sin. You got to be. I know now they're passing across the goal, but you got to be 100% sure. And then he gives it away. Yes, Liverpool. I think Aston Villa. They came there. They had a lot of shots on goal, which that's why I don't want to say that Aston Villa were lucky. I think they played well. And they fought for they got the win that deserved. But Liverpool, I also think 7-7 was a huge. Could I say? Yeah, I mean they pull up saves, and Liverpool also unlucky as well. I mean with the 3 deflections. Jeez, they were wicked.
Yeah, you don't even get that many glitches in a FIFA game. To be honest, that's what I kept thinking.
That's honestly what it reminded me of.
Is that your excuse, Claude?
I cannot lie. It literally reminded me of a FIFA game.
I've got a lot of them.
Moves the keeper out the way. Keeper in a FIFA game, the keeper will dive full, and literally what happened, and the ball went in the back of the net. But I want to give Aston Villa their credit. They played very well. What they did, which I liked, they literally played Liverpool's high line. They exposed it in the beginning. And then Liverpool were forced. What did Liverpool do? They were actually forced to now go even more forward because they want to get their goal. And that's exactly what they wanted. And they just, every time they got the ball, they just tried to look behind that line. And it worked the whole game. A good example of it was that free kick that led to Wilkinson's hat trick. The guy crossed it and they put it in the far post. Everyone else, Liverpool literally left him alone. And it's a thing probably they've been doing the whole time. They left that far man alone. The guy put it flat on the floor. They let every guy, there was offside. Liverpool, okay, I'm chilled, puts it across. And you could see there was a training ground move and everyone was happy that everything was going according to plan during the day.
I called it the suicide line. I thought it was.
That's what it was.
It was honestly suicidal. I understand it's because he wants to press and he forces the play in a certain way, but their switches were so good. They would get the ball in one area and then they'd just play the ball in behind. And I mean, what they had like 20-something% possession, something silly like that, Villa.
Yeah.
And they still won the game.
70-30.
And you know, I think Liverpool are good enough to drop off and still beat Villa or beat any team.
100%.
I mean, I thought after the 3rd or the 4th goal, he should have just sort of cut his losses and said, it's not working today, and just drop a little bit deeper, protect the goal, and then their players are better than Villa's players. They'll outplay them. Man for man, they're going to beat them. But I mean, they were almost giving them goals, giving them space to run into it.
It's like at the end of the day, man, like you know, when I was the post that I shared with you guys, where someone who follows football, he was watching obviously the Leeds and Liverpool game, and the guy was saying that, you know, Liverpool will face, you know, tougher challenges in the season where their high line might be exposed. You know what I mean? And I think, you know, Liverpool against Leeds, they were naive and they just, you know, maybe didn't take the opposition seriously, and they obviously led to conceding 3 goals. And again, here they he almost didn't take Villa seriously. But Villa were just every time they attacked, seemed like they were going to score a goal. There was a time in the second half where was it Watkins or Grealish hit the post. You know, it was a counter attack. I thought it was going to be number 8. You know, and Liverpool, man. Let's just say it's a once-off because obviously they played so well this season, but 7 goals, man, with 11 men on the field is unacceptable. At least I can say my team's conceded 4 with 10 men and 2 with 11 men. 7, like as the champions of England, I don't know. Claudio, your team made me feel a little bit better on Sunday. You know what I mean?
Well, I think you saw the memes going around. You'll never walk alone, Sello. And I think they knew the show was coming, and they knew we were going to be sitting next to each other. So they were like, let's help each other out. I think
it numbed my pain, man. It numbed my pain. I was about to a bottle of tequila and down the drink, but you know when I saw that Liverpool's losing 2-0, I was like, okay, let me watch the game, and then it was 2-1, and then next thing I know. Yeah. Then I changed that. I was like, no, let me watch Barcelona, and then I hear it's 5-2. I was like, wow.
Yeah, but
I'd still drink that bottle of tequila for Man United because it's going to be tough times ahead. Whereas Liverpool doesn't feel like it's going to be an reoccurring effect over the course of the season.
Well, you say that, and Sello, you said as a one-off event. I think the 7 goals might be one-off, but I think Marcus in the comments also mentioned it. That Leeds also showed you can get behind Liverpool's defence. I think there's hubris there. I think Liverpool is coming out of consistency. You know, and I think it's something they need to address. And you know, Klopp's not. He'll look at it and he's got a couple of weeks now to think about it. But it's something they do need to address because I think sides are showing that high press that they use, which has been so effective in the past, seems to be somewhat flawed at the moment. And the right kind of pace, and you can cause problems for Liverpool. And then we have to watch that, and you know, hopefully guys like Spurs, for example, you've got some pace at the front and some smart playmakers behind them, and you know, even like Arsenal, they could really do some damage to a Liverpool that doesn't address these issues. And I think that's what we've seen with Liverpool so far is that they still get themselves up for the big games. They were still the Liverpool season against Chelsea and Arsenal in the league at least, but then against these other sides, they do seem to go in with a certain level of arrogance about it or something. They're not.
Yeah, Kevin mentions that, and I think there's a couple of. I mean, we can dissect this game. You guys have touched on the tactical side from the high line. I mean, Kevin speaks about there being a hint of arrogance with Liverpool, and no doubt about it. They've just gone from 2 phenomenal performances. We're saying no one's going to catch them, and then they're coming. They know these players are aware of the fact that they've got internationals coming. They know they're playing Villa, and somewhat, I mean, they've thrashed Villa in the past, so they're just going, oh, it's going to be an easier game than what it is. It starts off early where there's that mistake with Adrian, and it sets the tone. And straight after the mistake that Adrian sets or makes, we've got the Shiboba that Van Dijk receives. So from that perspective, that is just the whole tone was a lot they kind of strolled in that pitch thinking they were just going to guarantee automatically win those points. But if we actually looking at what Villa did, I tweeted before the game and I said, with Grealish in this team, the biggest thing they did was keep Grealish. But managing to get Barkley and Watkins in the squad, Grealish is an incredibly clever player. He's going to hold on to the ball. You're not going to get the ball off him. And if you are going to try and get the ball off him, he's going to win a foul. So for him to have 2 players that are going to make runs are phenomenal because he's going to do whatever he can. He's going to put these guys through. So Liverpool is an example of what they can do. But they're going to do this to a lot more teams. And why Barkley works in this scenario, particularly in this case, in this game, was because whenever you got a midfielder who's got the legs and can make runs from behind, you're always going to damage a team who played highline. We knew when we played Northwest in the Varsity Cup, they did the same thing. We made runs from deep. And when you got a willing runner and a clever player, that's always going to be on the cards. So credit to Villa for doing that. Then you've got to look at the Liverpool aspect, and you've got to say, cool, Alisson wasn't in goal. But it's starting to become a thing where he is getting injuries, which he never got when he was playing at Roma. So is Adrian good enough to be your number 2? He was released from West Ham. So that kind of speaks volumes. Then you got to look at, okay, well, Gomez has days, man. He has days. He literally got whiplash for the second goal. The Oak turned him, and it wasn't even that hard. He just turned him, and I'm glad they took him off because the Oak was still playing like this second half. I don't know where Watkins was. And then obviously there are the incidents where you've got Jota coming in for Mane not being there, also a huge loss. Then if you look at the midfield, every game Hendo's not there, the intensity kind of comes off at least 5%. And that's one of those things. So it was a new dynamic, Keita, Van Holden, Fabi in the midfield. I mean, that's a new trio. They don't really play together that often. It's not an excuse, but it was very casual. And if you got your captain in the middle of the park there, that casualness goes right out the window. So that was another effect. Jota had a decent game, but obviously he's not where Mane is. Mane's at his peak. Jota is still learning the trade as a 23-year-old. So, I mean, all these things got to be taken into consideration. And there are three more things I want to say. First thing is that last time Liverpool conceded or lost to Villa, I think it was like 5-1, was in 1963. And they went on to win the league and the Champions League, European Cup. That's a good symbol. Next thing is, this is the first time champions have ever conceded 7 goals in a season. So that's a record. So we'll take that. Good or bad, a record's a record. And the third one is we've got Ole, who still has his job because of this result. So great long-term fit from Jurgen Klopp.
And that's what I think the difference is between the two teams. Like Liverpool have to go back and figure things out, but they have the personnel, starting with the coach and the players, to actually work something out. Whereas at Man United, it might be a little bit more of a predicament with the coach and the players, the personnel on display. It's going to be a completely different type of scenario. So I'd still keep that open of that bottle of tequila open, Sello, because give Liverpool a week with the players and the personnel there. It will actually, there is progress to be made. They've got the likes of Tiago Silva. They've got other midfielders that can do the job as well. Whereas at Man United, if I was Mata at Man United, I'd be super frustrated. I produce the goods whenever you call me, but you don't call me for the big games. You don't call me for the league. It's kind of it's frustrating, and the manager seems to be lost himself. So yeah, I think the tequila should be left open from your side. Make it a tequila silver.
Also, to the Mata situation is interesting because it's not like you can't even say Mata doesn't fit into the system because there is no system. Just let the oak float around, and he's gonna create things for you. He's gonna unlock these players.
We should be talking about Liverpool, man. Why would you? We spent 30 minutes speaking about Man United. Claudio, I want to ask you. I saw there's some bad vibes between Klopp and his former assistant. Man, his former assistant is coming out and he's saying he was the guy who was running everything. The success of Klopp is all because of him. Like, what happened, man? Like, what's going on? Why is the bad vibes?
Look, I don't mind talking about this. It's got nothing to do with the 7-2 defeat, but
you're talking about yourself.
Yeah, no. So Buvic, the brain, aka that's what Klopp called him. What happened was there was a little bit of a tension, or there was tension towards the end of his reign there, or his assistant job there with Klopp, because they introduced Pep Linders, who was part of the setup when Brendan Rodgers was there, and he came from Portugal. And he wasn't liking the fact that the players were getting along more with him than with the brain, the Buvic. So, yes, and Buvic is the dude's Eastern European. I don't think he's the warmest of guys, which is what Klopp had in abundance. And now in Pep Linders, you've got a bit of both. You've got the brain and you've got the warmness. So he's almost like a junior Klopp in a way. So, and I think it was just a jealousy thing, and the guy ended up leaving in the end. And it was also, the timing was dreadful because it was before the Champions League final as well in Ukraine when they lost to Madrid. And that's when so that's also the character of the man. So him saying these sort of things, he didn't even congratulate Klopp after being together for such a long time. But Marcus mentioned something. He says, Marcus mentions it is tricky for Liverpool. What did they change? And let's not be naive here. The thing is, at the end of the day, if we're looking at this result, the players were calm, the coach was calm. Was it a great result? No, it was the worst defeat Klopp has ever had in his career. But if anything, that's how life works. The time you find yourself at the highest point is life will humble you. So if anything, this is just another motivation for the guys to move forward. Nick, what are your thoughts on all of this?
Personally, I just think he needs to sort of decide when and how he plays. Because if he plays it like that against a better team, he might find himself with another scoreline like that. I don't see it happening though, but I mean, something does need to change. I tend to disagree. I think, teams have found them out, managers have found them out in a way in which they can be sort of beaten or they can be hurt or they can be penetrated. But he needs to be able to change his ways. That I think you look at like Pep Guardiola, he's also one who doesn't change his ways. At times you've got to be a little bit flexible. And I think, when you've already conceded 4-5 and you still sticking to the high line because you want to press, I as a coach, I don't understand it. I'd rather shut up shop and concede less and be less embarrassed, and maybe still try play through them. Like I said, Liverpool, arguably man for man, are the best team in the league, and they can beat teams in probably a variety of systems, and with a variety of strategies. So I just think if they're gonna stick to this sort of way throughout a full season, a full Champions League campaign, cup competitions, I think they might be found out more so than not. So I would add a bit of flexibility, and I don't think Klopp's stupid. I think he would have thought about that. So I think watch this space. He is a manager that does change it up now and again. I think he spoke after their last victory before Villa. He says we varied it up. We went long, we went short, we were playing in behind. But I think defensively he needs to maybe adjust because I don't know, that hard press in for 90 minutes against a good team and a good tactician, you might get found out.
I think what Marcus is also saying, what you're saying, is the fact they've considered these goals. We've got to consider two things here. It is the relegation candidates, or the guys that are at the bottom of the league, perceived to be at the bottom of the league, that are doing this. There aren't any fans in the stand, which also changes the dynamic a little bit. And when you aren't afraid to go toe-to-toe with a big team like that, you can't get these results. Normally, traditionally, the smaller teams will sit deeper and they'll try and hope for the best, hope for a set piece, hope for something. Whereas if you do go to toe-to-toe and you toe-to-toe-to-toes, all the damn toes, the 10 toes, if you go 10 toes to 10 toes, then, you can get something. You can do it, and they've proven that. So to your point, Nick, if smaller teams are going to come out and be brave, then yes, he's got to rethink things. But the irony is, during the same week, they played in Arsenal, and Arsenal set up completely different. So, it's different. So, yeah, it's an interesting dynamic to be playing around with. Let's move over to...
I think we need to also take into account the whole issue with fans not being in the stadium. You know what I mean? Teams are, they don't have that added pressure at playing at home. So, for instance, Aston Villa doesn't have that added pressure. Also, it can be a motivator, but you're seeing all these crazy scorelines because mainly because the fans are not there, and also with the short preseason that the teams had, so it's those contributing factors. Short preseason, teams haven't really worked out plan A, plan B. They just say, okay, cool. Last season we ended like this. Let's just play the way we ended last season. Then you play against a team. They just know you got last season's plan. They know what your plan is from last season. They just beat you because they've planned something differently. So without fans being there and also short preseason, I think that's definitely contributing. Especially with the bigger clubs, man. Players came back a week before training. Then there's new players, as you said. Now Fabinho, Keita, and Wijnaldum have never really played together. The midfield three. Jota is a new player. So yeah, all these things contribute, and I think it's very tough. As you see with Chelsea definitely already faced that with that, and they obviously adjusting along with finding their best 11. And I think you'll continue to see such big score lines, seeing 5 goals in a game, 3-2s, 4-2s, 5-2s. So yeah, so I think it's definitely contributing.
Yeah, it does take the mentality does take a step down in terms of when you're stepping out onto that pitch. Mosa, when you used to play, for example, when you played in a stadium when there were a lot of people watching versus when there weren't people watching, where were you more likely to make a mistake?
I'd like to say I don't know, man. Generally when players do play, you get into a zone where you're just in flow, right? It's nice to have the fans there to cheer you on, but you kind of do block them off from time to time as players. You really are focused on the game more than the crowd. It does add impetus to have a home ground because you do have that added push of your supporters in the background, but if you are playing away, it kind of jeers you on as well to have fans that are cheering you down. So it's not, but it'd be a tricky thing to say because there's no fans that players' performances are going to be updated or not updated. The players are solely there for playing on the ball. You'll see the same performances from top class players week in, week out, and the fans do support maybe for the celebrations and the likes to actually take it up a notch. But in general play, most times, like people, like when I used to play, you wouldn't even really get a sense of seeing the fans and their jeering and their likes. You'd only notice that like before the game, once people are getting warmed up, you see the fans, they get you jittery, they get you ready.
But
and
that's,
then
I think
after the
that's
game,
the point. I think that's the point I'm talking about. It's that before game moment, because like you said, when you're playing, you tend to block all these things out, unless of course you're taking a corner and some guy swearing at your mom right then, you can feel the spit on your face. But
yeah, or they're
like,
throwing like fruits in the field and stuff.
no, like yeah. But my thing is that when the occasion is of that point before the time, you kind of automatically get in there. I know when I used to play, I would have that one or two mistakes in me when I didn't have, like, if I had people watching, I always played better. It's just one of those things. Even though they didn't make an effect while I was playing, it was that before the game mentality that you knew you couldn't really afford to make a mistake.
Yeah. But then again, like some other players, they go through those processes of going into like, chanting and singing. Some players go into like listening to certain types of music, preparing themselves mentally for the game. They don't really, having the fans is nice. It adds to the atmosphere for the day, but it's not really the end all and be all. I think a bigger factor now is the fact that they haven't had the preseason to work out. As Sello mentions, plan A, plan B, plan C, especially with new players coming in. We're fortunate to see Tiago a week and a half in of training to actually get on the field and actually gel with the Liverpool setup. Whereas other teams or other players, it really does take some time for them to gel with the thinking, the philosophy, the culture at the club and how they approach the game, which I think that's a bigger factor for matches and the performances that we see.
That's a good point. Good point. I'm going to take us to the next game. It might not be as good as what Matt was hoping for, but so it takes a little bit of the gloss away from the 6-1. But let's move over to Wonga in terms of Arsenal actually winning.
Look, again, I think it's the same as last. I was just happy that, like, again, Arsenal didn't look that, overwhelming, just like the Tottenhams. But they played it simple. The goal was the build up to the first goal where Saka headed it in. I thought it was a very good goal. And then they managed to score two and keep the win until the end. Last year, like I said, if I'm watching that game, I'm panicking. Like a goal could come out of anywhere, But the defense now, not every attack doesn't look like it's going to be a goal. And that's the difference I see from now. And that's it's more comfortable for me to actually watch the Arsenal game now. So again, I'm happy with the 3 points. We got it. It was a bit shaky towards the end, but we didn't lose it, and that was the most important thing. Even saw the way Arteta and the bench celebrated after the game. Like, this match was their accomplishment. Not they don't worry about anything later or anything that happened before, but they just worried about and focused on winning this game today, and that's what I liked. Another point, they put Shaka on.
Yeah.
They put Shaka on, and literally the place he should have been. That's where our goal came from. That's where we conceded it. The place he should have been at that time, we conceded that goal. And they keep on. I don't know. He keeps on proving my point. He's like a Theo Walcott. There's this promise. So always this promise about Theo Walcott. Then you're like, no, he shouldn't play. Then he scores a goal, and then you're like, no, it's okay. Then the next game he doesn't score. No, it's coming. Then he doesn't score, and then when you're fed up, he scores. Then you're like, okay, no, it's coming. No, I'm done. No, Saka, I've decided. No, put him on the bench. Luckily, we just signed Wate from Atletico. That made me smile. So it's direct. There's no complications. I don't hope Arteta doesn't complicate it. Take off Shaka, put him on the bench, then you put him That's it. There's no complication to it.
He'll play them together. He'll surprise you.
But if you see that, give up. I give up.
Yeah. But Wonga, I liked what you were saying, where you speak about the fact that they got the 3 points, they got the game over the line. Whereas it was last year, before Arteta, you go, oh, there's a chance this isn't going to happen for us. I mean, Sheffield, they're a tricky team, they're a dirty team, they work hard, and they get stuck in. So and it wasn't an easy game. If you had to watch that game and you had to see any bits, it wasn't an easy game for Arsenal. The game was at both ends, and all the goals came in the second half. So they granted that result, and that was a big win at the end, and that's why I celebrated the way he did. It's building that confidence, it's building that momentum that will help them get over the line eventually, make them possibly a top 4 candidate.
Yeah.
So
Yes.
what's happening with William Saliba, man?
With who?
The young kid, the young centre back you guys signed for 30 million from St. Etienne last season. I mean, you guys want to send him out on loan to Brentford.
Yeah, look, I wouldn't like to. I'm not even aware of what's happened in that situation.
Yeah, because he said he lost his mom, and obviously his mind is not right. And then St. Etienne wanted to take him back on loan in France, but then you guys said no to the loan to take him back to France to be closer to family. And then now you want to loan him out to Brentford in the Championship. You know, rather you could have loaned out the kid to a French team in the League One where he knows the environment. He's you guys spent 30 million pounds on the kid. I know he's 20 years old. 30 million pounds on someone and you don't use him. I think obviously you guys should be, what's obviously you as you said you don't know what the situation around him.
Yeah, I don't know the situation. But yeah, you're right. You spend 30 million pounds on a kid, and then you, I mean, now you're not using him. But I mean, like you say, I mean, he's saying his kid. His mother passed away, and I mean, I think it's a complicated situation to deal with. Yeah, now you're going to send him away to another country again. I don't know. It's a complicated one, and I think for Arsenal as well. I don't think it's. I think it's probably a unique situation in Arsenal's case, because the only other player there that's like getting paid a lot and that's on the bench is Mesut Ozil. So I think
down the drain.
Yeah.
Well, a little bit he's paying Ganosaurus himself, isn't he?
Exactly. Somebody's coming back into the club.
Yeah, I see. Like Arsenal, there's a lot of things happening inside there. I think, like on the field, it's good, but like up there in management and what's happening. I mean, with the staff and all that, I don't know what's going on, and it's. I'm just happy it's not affected what's happening on the pitch. But geez, it can't be a. For me, it's not a good. How would you? I don't know what the right word to say is, but it's not a good look. Being an Arsenal, the team. I mean, you got Mikel Arteta. Everyone likes the guy. Seems like a likable person. Arsenal's playing well. You got the Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang, Lacazette. I mean, everything seems to be. The look you get from Arsenal on the outside is that it's a happy team. We together, we happy. No one's going to be tuning people like Bruno did to Maguire. And then in the back, it seems like it's every man for themselves. It's savage out there.
Cutting, man. You guys are cutting.
Heads are getting cut at the back there. So yeah, it's a very. You almost think it's two different entities, but it's one club. So yeah, it's whatever's going on there. I wouldn't even know what to say, how to fix it. But
Wonga, do you not think Luis should have been sent off?
For what?
For that pull on. So he was 1-on-1 with a goalkeeper, and he pulled the Leicester player, the Sheffield United player back. So I watched it, and they reckon. Did you watch the game though? I don't know. Maybe
no, I watched the whole game. I'm trying to think. Maybe I missed that part.
This is that Arsene Wenger. I didn't incident thing,
The keeper was off his line.
I don't see a thing.
The player carried on running, and the keeper intercepted the ball. But if the player went down, I reckon he might have been in trouble because he was the last man. Because that's Luis doing silly things again.
Yeah, you see now that's exactly,
you know,
it's exactly what went in my head now. You see, when he said that, it's exactly what in my head. David Luiz, when he came here, was doing stupid things, and he got caught for them. And then we got punished. You see, it's things like that now. You see someone like that now, just if he's still doing that stuff, step aside, step aside. Yeah, step aside. And then I see
you need his experience. You need his experience, man.
Yeah.
No way, we don't need anything from him.
So
Wonga, Kevin asked your thoughts on Willian. Tell us, what do you think?
Yeah.
Look,
Kevin's a Chelsea fan, so he wants to know.
Even before Willian signed with Chelsea, he was playing, I think, at Shakhtar, and I've said it before. I saw him in the Champions League. Yeah, he was playing what you call the centre attacking mid, just between the midfield and the strikers. And he looked he looked unstoppable in that position. He looked very, very dangerous, and I think that's why Shakhtar were able to get there to that place and still sort of hold their own against some teams. And when he went to Chelsea played him all the way down the wing. And I think I would like, especially if you're not going to see more of Mesut, I'm hoping maybe he can try, Arteta can try that. We'll see, playing Willian down the middle. But what you do see often with Willian as well is that because now the guys we've got the right mids running the whole right mid and left mid running down the whole flanks. Willian actually does come into the middle, and you can see he's getting those passes now and then, very calm and relaxed in just around the penalty area. There's not rushing things or just he's not rushing things, just kicking the ball or always going back, but he's always trying to look for that forward pass. And I think that's what I like about Willian. Even with the Aubameyang, he's quick to get the ball, switch to his side. He's a very direct player, and that's I've always liked Willian. He's in the team. I don't think he can do much. He has to do a lot. He has to get past Xhaka in order for me to not like him. So yeah.
That's some way down, huh?
Yeah.
Looks like we've lost Claude. But tell us, Mosa, let's talk about your game, man. You 4-0. Yeah, dude.
Against Crystal Palace.
What a victory.
Just good, man.
I put Werner, Timo Werner as my captain, bro.
As your captain.
Guys, I'm going to sell that.
Sorry, man. I think it was probably like top pick on a lot of people's fantasy leagues this past week because of the expectation that was set during the cup where he scored his goal. Yeah, the Midweek Cup. He did show some promise over the game, but I think a lot of credits go to the defense and the goalkeeper over this game, keeping a clean sheet. Mendy looked good. His distribution looked good. The team looked solid. Possession on their possession on the ball was really good. They were in the last 2/3 of the game. They really did frustrate Zaha. I don't know if you guys saw Zaha and how he was. His body language did show how difficult of an occasion it was for them to actually get the ball over to him. So, yeah, man, I'm very, very happy. I think there are a little bit of tweaks that we could make here and there, especially in the centre mid with Kante and Jorginho. But it'd be a big call for Lampard to change a winning team, especially a team that's won in this format. It was nice to see Abraham's actually fighting for the second penalty there against with Jorginho. It's awesome, man. Like that was
as Filiqueta was a captain there. He says no. I'm still making this decision.
But that's what you want. You want your striker fighting for that. You want your striker to want goals. That's they shouldn't be walking away like, no, I won't have it. That's what you want.
Yeah, exactly that. And it is a good that Jorginho was given the penalty again, because it also like that thing of saying like if things are working well, don't change them. I think it's a real philosophy that Chelsea probably have to consider this season, given the new players that are coming in, the options that they do have at their disposal. If they do go about changing too many things, it could mess up the current chemistry that they do have. So, yeah, man, I'm very, very happy about that result. It was a top result. The football that we showed was of the highest draw. You could see the players were actually like international European type of players, where you could see the passing was crisp, the movement was crisp. The Crystal Palace had a lot of firepower. Townsend and Zaha were just nowhere to be seen, and unfortunately, that's because Chelsea were that much better on the day, in my view.
Sorry, go ahead there.
I was going to say, Chelsea, there's an interesting question mark about Chelsea because they get up for these games against someone like Palace, who you'd expect them to beat. You know, given everything where Chelsea were last season, plus what they did during the transfer window. But then when they played Liverpool, they weren't the same. They weren't as quick to the ball. They were more standoffish. They weren't as dominant on the field. I think the question mark with Chelsea is whether they can translate the dominance they can bring to a game against a smaller team to the bigger side. I mean, you know, Liverpool's a tough example, but I'm keen to see Chelsea against some of the other big teams in the league. I'd like to see Chelsea City, for example. I think that could be a fantastic game, and I think it'll be a really good test of just how far Chelsea's come. That's, you know, that because I think there is still that question mark. You kind of expect Chelsea to beat Palace as much as you know Palace has got that firepower. They should win that game, and so I want to see Chelsea really win a game where maybe the question, you know, where maybe they're not expected to win before I really believe in old Frank, you know.
Yeah, sure. I agree with you 100%. There are some games which they come into where they don't look like a Chelsea type of squad. They look like another team which is just coming to test options out, coming to see if they can get a sneaky goal here and there. And they're not actually jumping on the offensive and dominating the game, which is, if they're going to look for top 4 position again this season, they have to come out against Tottenham, come out against Arsenal, come out against Liverpool, actually looking to take the dominant position of the game, as opposed to sitting a little bit deeper and looking for opportunities to strike. But yeah, man, it is a new squad. As you say, they did spend a lot of money on that squad, and we still haven't seen all that money come to display. I mean, there's still a lot of players that haven't actually, or a couple of players, big names that haven't actually gotten their chance to play, which is, it's exciting, but it's also a problem because where do you change? Where do you make the changes in the squad? Because it's a tricky challenge, you know. But the approach is good. The change room seems fine. Aspilicueta took even Abrahams probably understands the fact of why he never got that penalty after that little incident. And yeah, that's a good place. I think it's a very good place for them to be fighting issues like that.
I know we spoke a lot about penalties in the previous episode, and I just want to mention the fact that there were 2 penalties given in this game. 2 penalties, right? And the reason Nick mentioned the whole David Luiz incident, whether or not he should have been sent off. If the striker, and I think, what is it, Burke? If Burke being pulled by his shirt, right? He is being pulled by a shirt, one-on-one with the keeper. He's solely got his eyes on the ball. He doesn't even see Leno. If he decides to fall to ground, that's probably given as a red card, right? He doesn't. Yeah. Then you've got in this scenario, in this game, where you get 2 penalties given, and both of the players, firstly, the one you could argue was more of a penalty than the other, but both touches were completely innocuous. And it was one of those where if the players stayed on their feet, they still get to the ball and they can still have a shot and goal. But they literally, and you can see it in their body action, they literally throw themselves to the floor, and it's not even seamless. It's a bit delayed, but they still get the penalties. So my whole debate is like, how does the attacker get the advantage of that scenario when they can stay on their feet and go score? Like, I don't get that. No,
you're right. Even looking at like the Chelsea second, I think it was the second penalty. The guy took there, took the shot, and then he trips over the keeper's follow through. Yes, the keeper doesn't touch the ball, but the guy shot off target. You know, it's not that the keeper put him off target. He shot off target. And even and then you look at the Chelsea penalties for me. I agree with Claudio in that sense. And if explaining what David Luiz did, that would make sense to give that a penalty over that. Well, if they give Chelsea's ones as penalties, then there's no question about what David Luiz. I did not see it, but there's no question.
All I can say is
what you're telling me is true.
Allegations.
That's a classic comment in manager where it's like, what about this incident? I didn't see it. I didn't see it.
All I can say is like with the introduction of VAR and the analysis that's going to take place now in the box, is we're going to see a lot more penalties which are softer than we've seen in previous seasons. And we've seen it with the handballs already. It's already raised these questions where it's like things are just going to be a lot easier to get into a position of a penalty in the box. And yeah, man, that's unfortunately some incidents will be missed, like David Luiz's one, but a lot will be caught, and some of them will be according to the rules.
Hey, Musa,
They'll be so strictly according to the rules.
You know this? I think it was the Liverpool game. I can't remember. But there was But either way, the guy took a cross in. They crossed the ball in, and outside the box, the guy puts his hand up. Like, you know, the normal defender turns his body. It hit his hand and went out for the corner. And the free kick for me would have been a better position. Look, he was literally on the corner of the box. Yeah. But the ref didn't he didn't give the free kick. They just gave it a corner. And the guy complained, it's like, hey, that's a handball. Had that been in the box, would he have said corner?
It would have raised questions. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, you should have also had a penalty, by the way.
The probably would have called a penalty had it been in the box. There needs to just be with these VARs, with the rules, whatever. There just needs to be consistency, and that's where I do. See now in the beginning when they were giving the handballs, all those handballs, I was happy that there's consistency. But now, you see, they're going back to that thing of now there's not really consistency in what decisions being made.
The power is different. The power is different in the box versus outside the box. That's just how it is.
Yeah. I think we just have to consider that box as like a very hot.
There's the hot pan, boy. Yeah. You're gonna burn things there.
There's the problem.
Yeah. It's when you're cooking, the temperature is just different. In the box, it's like on a 10, and you're gonna burn things, and outside it's like on a 3. Mosa, I do want to say that from like a Chelsea perspective, you talk about the new guys coming in. I mean, you get Chilwell finally makes his debut, gets a goal, and I think it was 2 assists, and then you've also got Mendy in goal. So Kepa's he's already passed in the memory. He's already long gone. I mean, still unfortunately on the bench.
We had a few shots at us which never turned into goals, which is a blessing from God. It's been a while since we've had like it's been a while since we've had that, So it's good, man. Like I can't complain, honestly. Like Mendy's looking well, his distributions. I don't know if it's as good as Kepa, but it's really, really good. But his shot stopping is there. It's actually like confidence. It creates confidence between the lines. So it'll step up from Mendy. And then you get in front of him, Tiago Silva and Zuma, who will also have a lot more confidence. And then my only concern is now having these two, Kante and Jorginho there. I don't know if it's still necessary for both, but it'd be difficult to change it now, given that they've got a good result. So, yeah, man, can't complain on my side.
Yeah, I think it was a decent weekend for Chelsea. It wasn't too crazy. They got the goals. Someone here has been very quiet and he's been very patient and he's been wanting to sing it since he came on. Newcastle got 3 goals. They scored 3 goals in the game.
One team, man. Yeah, 3 goals. Can you imagine? But I tell you what, I'm really chuffed. Callum Wilson's, he's a player. I tell you what, he's a goal scorer. I think we spoke about it already a few episodes back, but for me, I think he's got a shot for England if he can continue scoring in arguably quite a weak team with better service. I think he could probably do it for most teams in the Premier League. His hold-up play is good. He finds himself in good areas. A striker is decent when he's scoring the tap-ins because he's actually going to the areas and he's not attracted to the ball. Something that is actually such a good characteristic. Just not being attracted to the ball and gambling and going to areas in and around where the poachers generally score. Scored a penalty, and then I think our sort of game changers, Alain Saint-Maximin, probably the
Maximum.
most. Yeah, that man he's so tricky. He's only 22. Yeah. He's only 22. Maybe he's not 22, but he's 22.
You're giving him a soccer age right now, bro. Maybe he's 22.
He's got kids. I hope this doesn't get back to me.
but he's got 3 kids, so I was just a little bit, I don't know.
Yo, the man's been feeding those kids. He's been feeding them.
But no, he's unplayable at times, and when he turns it on, he really turns it on. I actually saw a video of him in training, I think last week, and he beats like 4, 5, 6 players, and it's just easy for him. And I think players or defenders from opposing teams don't want to put a foot in because he wins a lot of fouls, he gets a lot of knocks. So that's only the sort of downfall with him is every 3rd or 4th game he tends to get an injury of some sort because players do tend to kick him. But I think all in all, I'm happy to be a Newcastle fan. I personally am happy that it's the international break because now it's 2 weeks of a winning team. Man United next. I'm pretty confident with that, actually. I think we've got a chance, to be fair, and it's at home. But I think, Matt, you said it, the highs of supporting a team. I mean, you telling me about Spurs, please, you must feel my pain, man. I win one a month and I'm happy. So, yeah, we'll see. We've signed half decent players. Defensively, I think we look shocking still. We're playing a mighty average Burnley team. We're very predictable, and I think if you've got a little bit of something different, you can hurt a team like that. So yeah, I'm not going to get too excited, but I had a beer in my hand watching the 3rd goal in, and I was delighted, to say the least.
Yeah.
Cheers to that,
man,
bro. You deserve
so
those,
I
man.
feel like now seeing as we have these chats once a week, I feel like there's a little part of me that goes, did Newcastle win? Because it feels like they've won a cup like on the weekend. And so I'm just like,
yeah, no, it is. Listen, it's tough supporting a team like mine, but when the highs are when we win, the highs are high, but the lows can be very low. So
and it worked out well for you too, because you were watching the game while you were out partying, weren't you? So it was like it was a 2-for-1.
Yeah.
Thing.
So I had to adjust. I think they had some La Liga game on, and I told them, hey, listen. And I think Timo ODV was playing in the background, and his screen was behind his head. So I was jamming there, and the 3rd goal went in. So it was good. I wanted a tequila afterwards, but for a good thing, Sello, not for.
And also a positive for Newcastle as well. I think also if you, I think Nick would also share the same thoughts. Is that I mean, in the beginning, Burnley, after you guys scored the first goal, Burnley looked like they're going to score and score again. After that. But they scored, and I mean, they managed to keep them out and then score the 2 goals after that. I think that's a very good positive.
Honest with you, I think I've said it before. Steve Bruce is a dinosaur, and he doesn't really have a plan B. I mean, 9 times out of 10, we'll start a game, the ball will go back to the centre backs, and boom, we pump it forward, and we play off second balls. And I think we tend to rely on sort of individuals, and we've got a few of them. I still say John Joe Shelby. There's not many who can pass a ball like him, and when he's on, he's really on, and he can ping the passes into spaces. We've got a couple of attacking players that can add value, but we've got a lot of weak players as well. I'm not going to hide from that. So ideally, when the players aren't being coached, which I thought they were with Rafa, players were improving. You could see individuals actually improving. There's a couple of individuals that have gone backwards under him. So it's always at a knife edge with us. And we'll just be a mid-table team or just above relegation. And if we survive, I will be drinking beers with all of you, celebrating.
It's not.
When you say that you guys rely on individual brilliance, now you guys definitely do, and I think that's what Steve Bruce needs to kind of change in the team. When you've got a player like, say, Maximan, and you've got Almiron on the bench or starting, you need to use these guys to the best of their abilities. Imagine say Maximan and Wilson playing together as a three, with Shelby springing the passes. You don't need to then front to a Carroll. You need to take Carroll out, man. Carroll's the guy you bring 15 minutes when you need a goal.
But
listen, Carroll helped them get the points. Carroll was the reason behind that point at Spurs. One long ball, penalty, and all of a sudden you got something.
As I said, last 15 minutes is where Carroll should be playing, not starting the game. You know what I mean? You can play Almiron and say Max, and that's where at least you got some bit of creativity.
Yeah. You know what? I tweeted it the other day, and I think it's something that a team like ours is missing, is that box-to-box animal that runs up and down. I think I've spoken to Claudio about it. Decore was one that got away for me. I mean, leaving a relegated Watford was a no-brainer for us to go spend a bit of money. I know he went possibly to a better team now, Everton. I mean, most teams have that, sort of guy who just, keeps the team ticking. You've got Kante at Chelsea. You've got Genie. You've got Hendo at you guys at Liverpool. Sissoko I say Sissoko in my tweet actually, but I couldn't stand him. But, he does it. He serves a purpose and he does a job. And we don't really have that. Shelby doesn't have the legs. He'll do as much as he can. We don't have that sort of biter who's just going to come there with a big axe and just sort of clean everything up. So I do worry when we do play better teams, but we a lucky package. When you go to the lucky package, £5 lucky package, you don't know what you're going to get. We'll see.
But Nick, the transfer window between the Premier League and the Championship is still open. You could sign like an Etienne Capoue. He's still at Watford. Do you think you guys could go for such a signing or signing?
The one I want is I don't know if he went anywhere. He was linked to West Ham. Is Benrahma from?
He's still there.
That man, I watched him live. That guy is fire. He needs to play in the Premier League. So I think so much. But Steve Bruce says he's happy with his signing. So how can I argue with Big Steve there?
Yeah, but you know what, Nick, put a little motivational letter together, and we'll fax it to Steve Bruce, seeing as he's a dinosaur on behalf of Goal Lounge, and hopefully they go after that player. We're gonna move on to a game that we're gonna touch on it briefly because we're gonna talk about other things after this, more specifically the transfer deadline. But Everton Brighton, this is an interesting game. Why? Because they've won 4 games out of 4. Last time Everton did this, they won the league. A couple of things to consider here is we've got Ancelotti managing the side, and arguably a side that suits him to the T, a side that is working class, a side that doesn't have to be flamboyant, but more organized, which is what he's got in his locker, a side that currently seems to be walking on the pitch with swagger, which is what he also gives to these players. I mean, it's ridiculous. They're walking on the field and they look like champions. The only weakness they have at the moment is Pickford. We said going into the season, we didn't even put them in the top 4, largely because we said they didn't have a striker and they didn't have a keeper. Well, they've got the striker in Calvert-Lewin. What they don't have is the keeper still, but they're still getting the results. And they've got the Colombian connection working between Mina and James. And there's just everything right now is working there. What do you guys think about what's going on in the blue camp of Merseyside?
I think it's really cool.
Yeah, go for it.
Yeah, I think before the season, everybody was talking about City and Liverpool. What are they going to do again? Is anybody going to get anywhere near them? All of that. And I think the first 4 games have shown us the depth and the excitement of the Premier League. And that's kind of encapsulated in Everton. If it was today, they'd be rightful champions. If we went into a second lockdown and we had to cancel the league, give them the chance, give them the trophy. Why not?
They'll go down well, as you said.
It's been great, and same thing with Newcastle. I mean, Callum Wilson going out there banging them in for fun. This is what the Premier League's all about. Newcastle, who are a fun side to watch, what you're going to get. They're going to score a lot of goals, and Everton just really playing well. And it's not they haven't been lucky. They've been they've got a solid system. Like you said, Ancelotti's putting the basics. They're playing really good football, and it wouldn't surprise me at all if they went on and pulled off a Leicester. That's what Leicester did. They started off. Everybody kept saying, "Oh, it'll drop off. It'll drop off." We're all thinking the same thing about Everton, even if we're not saying it. But what if they didn't? What if Ancelotti's formula works for the entire season and they pull off something big? It'd be cool to see them up against a really big side. When they played Spurs, we were not at our best. The first game of the season, we were all still a bit mixed up. I don't know if the game would go the same now that we've got a bit of momentum behind us, but it'd be cool to see Everton come up against a really big side and see how they play then. And Brighton was an interesting test for them as well, because Brighton have also been an interesting side this season, and they've got also a few. The way Brighton play is not, they don't sit back. They try to create something. So it was nice to see Everton able to overcome conceding 2 goals and still win the game and still dominate. So it's I think it's a fun side. I want to see more. And as you said,
I've always had a problem with Everton, specifically because I've always thought that Newcastle were a bigger club, and I just thought that we had a lot more potential. and it pisses me off to see a team that just shows you if you put a little bit of ambition or show a little bit of ambition, you can do something. And I've always said, they'll be there and thereabouts and top 10, and they've never really had the X factor, and I think that X factor now is Carlo Ancelotti. The man has done it wherever he's gone. He's won the Premier League. He won it with Chelsea.
With Chelsea.
So, I mean, he's done it in England. He's done it in Spain, Italy. He's been all over the place. So, I mean, you come into the Premier League, you don't need to go to your Cities, your Liverpools, your Man Uniteds. You can go to Everton because Carlo Ancelotti's there. I think that's also personally why I liked having Rafa, because Rafa had also done it wherever he's been. He's won the Champions League. He can attract players, So the manager, and that's why I'm saying in terms of Sello, I personally don't think Ole can attract players. Players might not want to play for him, but players do want to play for Klopp and Ancelotti and Mourinho. Yes. And that is a reality, I was watching Emil Heskey this morning, and he said 10, 15 years ago, players would die to play for Man United, but now, and that was probably the only team because of Fergie. But now you've got so many characters of managers in the Premier League where you want to go play for probably 5 or 6 of them now in the league. So I'm very impressed with Everton, and I just don't think Pickford is the one if they're going to go forward, personally, because he is a Mackem and he's from Sunderland and I can't stand him, and he's got short arms, and I think they're better England keepers as well. But I think, I don't know, someone was saying the other day after the game, I think he's very prone to, like, when he makes a big save, he's high-fiving all his players, but then he's making too many mistakes and he's banging the ground and he's almost like too emotional. I don't know.
He's petulant, man.
Yeah,
he's very petulant.
Yeah.
You can't have a kid in goals. That's it. You can't. Yeah.
So I think, Everton, let's see what they can do. I can't wait for next weekend to see what happens, because whoever wins will probably go top. And we actually forgetting the other team that hasn't lost a game yet is Villa, and they're doing something. They're doing something, and I know we spoke about them, but it's interesting to see that depth that the league has right now.
Yeah. And talking about the players, we might as well, in terms of players not wanting to go to United, we might as well talk about the next thing, and that is the transfer deadline. And are we happy? Are we happy with what you landed up with as for your teams, the situation? How are you guys feeling? I mean, Matt's nodding his head. He's smiling. Let's just jump into that camp.
Yeah, well, Spurs did a great window, and it's, we've had some bad ones. So this was great. Bale back is an emotional boost. We haven't even seen him on the field yet, and I just feel better for having him around. It's and Reguilon and. He's the way he came in, and he adds that something different from left back. Davies is a fantastic left back, but he's more defensively minded. Reguilon going forward gives us that something extra, and you saw it against United. Reguilon and Aurier side by side. It's a fantastic. They're really good going forward. Doherty also coming in. He's a really, really good right back, and he gives us having both Reguilon and Doherty in give us the opportunity to play 3 at the back with some wing backs, and that gives us that plan B, something different that we can bring to games. And I can't wait to see a Son, Kane, Bale front 3. I think that's going to be, that's just going to be amazing fun for me to watch. And it could be incredible. It could all end in tears. Both Bale and Kane could break a hamstring at the same time, and it'll all end in disaster. It could just be incredible fun.
Running for the same ball, and then they pull up.
Yeah. Both of them just collapse in a heap and have to be dragged off.
All 3 of them, actually.
On its own up front, but it was the kind of window that we needed as Spurs, and I think you see the difference in how Spurs are approaching games after the Everton game when the deals were confirmed, everything was kind of done and dusted, and Bale was then. now when we go into games, there's a level of confidence. We walk in a bit taller, and the fans are feeling a bit better. You know, it's all of us online talking on Twitter and stuff. Spurs fans are feeling good about the club again. And that's what you should do with transfer windows, because ultimately the individual players I don't think make necessarily a massive difference, but it's the feeling and what you get out of it, and the contrast. Maybe we should go straight to United is when it doesn't come off, when you don't get what you want. You spend an entire summer talking about a single player who then stays at Dortmund. You know, it has a big impact on the squad and on the feeling of the fans as well.
Yeah. And to that comparison, so Sello, if we're going to compare the Spurs and the Kane sort of transfer window and who they landed up with, I mean, you had even when Ole took charge of United, there were still rumors of Kane being linked with the move to United. Now you're going, especially after this weekend's performance, you're going, there's no ways that move will ever happen. If Kane leaves Spurs, it's not to another English team. It's either overseas, but it's definitely not to United.
Yeah. It'd be tough for a manager like Ole Gunnar Solskjaer to attract that type of talent. And it's unfortunate because, you know, the purse at Man United is big. The history of the club is massive. But players like Pogba, they were like unicorns. They don't go leave a Champions League final to go play in the league to go compete for Champions League positions again, you know? And it's tough to find in world football. But yeah, man, like from a Chelsea perspective, I'm happy with the signings. Getting the goalkeeper in is massive relief. It would have been like a massive spend that we'd all put up in the front five players. But then if we had Kepa still in the back, it would have virtually worked out to be like a nullifying effect. So now having a Mendy who looks solid. I haven't seen a lot of him, admittedly, but he looks a lot better than Kepa at shot stopping, and he creates a lot of confidence. I think it's great, man. Like it gives not Steven Gerrard, Frank Lampard a big headache.
Sorry, it's easy to make the confusion. I mean, the one is far like a greater player. He's just always in the back of your mind. It's, you know.
Okay, Claude. Oh man, but yeah, man, he's got a massive headache ahead of him for this season. Everything that he's wanted, he's gotten. So you can't really like fault the team. You can't fault the players. You can't fault the management. He has to just look at himself at the end of the season if things don't work out. But yeah, all in all, very happy with that the signing this season.
I guess the only thing is that he needs to like fitting in all those players is going to be tough. You know, when Pulisic and Ziyech is 100%, you know, Hudson-Odoi has already shown some good form.
Promise. Yeah.
Until the West Brom and the Palace game, he's played very well, you know, and then him to be removed and put Pulisic or put Ziyech in, it will be kind of unfair on him when he's playing well, and I just hope that doesn't like throw him to the bench immediately, because that kid definitely he has potential, and I think if you give him some a run of games, he can definitely do the work. And then obviously Bayern wanted to get him on loan with an option to buy, and then you guys rejected it. So you guys need to put some trust in him, but it's kind of tough when there's so many options in the front line.
But also,
100%, man.
If you think about it, that's also the kind of perfect Chelsea for Lampard. You think about when Lampard was at his peak and Chelsea were at their peak, they had the same problem. They had a massive squad with really talented players. You think about the kind of guys who were regularly left out. Joe Cole, Aaron Robben often had to sit on the bench and wait for their chance during when Lampard was at his peak. So in a way, he's used to that, and he should know how to do that and how to get the best out of players and keep them amped up. So even if they're only playing every third game, that they go in and perform at their peak because of that competition. Yeah. And it's definitely a problem you'd rather have than have a squad with a lot of people. And I think
exactly.
It's a big challenge for Lampard, and definitely the expectations are ratcheted up. I mean, there's big expectations.
But what's interesting is it's not just a challenge from whether or not they keep him happy from that perspective as to whether or not he's playing. It's even in this window, he's still being chased by Bayern Munich. He's 18 years old. He's on a contract of £180,000 a week. But Bayern Munich still want the lad. So there's that risk that if he doesn't get game time, he's just going to look elsewhere, look over his shoulder, and make a jump to Germany, where he's seen a Sancho excel, as an example.
Yeah. He'd fit the mold of like a Kingsley Coman and the likes. They're very direct type of players with a lot of pace and a lot of energy when they do play. So yeah, he's very exciting for world football as a whole. It's just, with the players that are around him, it's going to be tough for him to actually put his name on the starting 11 week in, week out.
Don't worry. I mean, it could be another situation where you let go of a Sello or De Bruyne or Lukaku. They leave Chelsea and they become world stars. That's how it works. Sorry, Sello.
The thing is, with the Euros coming, right? Positions for the English wide positions, Sterling, Rashford, Sancho, and then obviously like a Hudson-Odoi. He wants to be one of those wide options for him. He's been in the English squad, but now he's with the under-21s. So he needs game time to impress Southgate and to be obviously. Harvey Barnes got into the squad from Leicester, you know what I mean? So now Harvey Barnes has gotten ahead of him. So he needs to kind of like get back, get his spot back in the team. And then there's still Foden and a Greenwood that will also be fighting for those positions once they get allowed back into the team.
Yeah, they need to just keep the girls away from the hotels, though.
Yeah, man. It's not throwing parties, man. It's not throwing parties, man.
Yeah, Chelsea seem to have that party problem. Now, we said a lot of bad things about United, but they did land some players on deadline day. Sello, how are you feeling about the guys you landed up getting?
Yeah, and I'm happy that we decided to sign Alex Telles. It's always you need options in certain positions, and I never liked Brandon Williams as a second choice left back because he's a right-footed player playing left back. It's never ideal. It's for you rather play a person with using the opposite foot and for emergency situations. But going to a season, you need to have another option. Luke Shaw, he's had good games, but also he's had poor games as well. So you need to at least keep some competition for him. Have another option, and Alex Telles is a good option. He's got a good left foot on him. He scores free kicks. He's a good person with a set piece. And I think it's a good signing. Edinson Cavani is an interesting one. I saw a video. I saw a video. Whatever you say, Claudio. But whatever you say.
That's a desperate signing. Is it not a desperate signing? They put all their eggs in one basket.
Listen,
exactly, Wonga. They put all their eggs in one basket. They were so arrogant about how they went with the dealing of Sancho. They wasted time. You telling me if you let the player go? Hang on, Sello.
But that's the thing I've always said about the board, right? At Man United, is that the board at Man United are not football people. So the decisions that they're making don't surprise me. You know what I mean? So us getting Sancho is not a surprise because what has always happened with Man United, right? Is that the seasons that they've made the Champions League, right? They don't spend, right? Mourinho came second, right? And the next season, guess who we signed when Mourinho came second? We signed Diego Dalot for £21 million, and we signed Grant, third choice goalkeeper. Mourinho got them to second, within 9 points of City, and they didn't sign anyone to back him up. Now, similarly, when Van Gaal also got us into Champions League, same thing the next season. We spent about £50 million. You know what I mean? Now this season as well, same thing. Solskjaer got us into the top four. We don't spend. It's a recurring theme. It's not a surprise. So the whole Sancho thing, it could have been like literally. It's literally. They often do this in Spain, Barcelona and Real Madrid, right? Where the supporters want a certain signing. Then they say that we're going to try and get the signing. We're going to try and get the signing. We're going to try and get the signing. And then at the last minute, they say, guys, it didn't work out for X, Y, and Z reasons. But in actual fact, did they really try and get those signings? So that's what similarly happened to Man United is that the board says we're trying to get Sancho, right? But in actual fact, these guys don't want to spend a dime. They want to spend anything. They want to spend it all. So they would never spend they were never going to spend more than £100 million in this window because we're in the Champions League. Last season we were outside Champions League. We're trying to get back into it. They only spend when we're outside Champions League, and that's the thing we need to realize.
And that's a valid point, Sello. And it's a pattern that saw Arsenal slowly slide down the slope, and now they're trying to climb back up. So there is a pattern in that scenario. And the irony is the American owners, the the thing we've got to consider here is whether or not they really wanted Sancho. Okay, you saying they didn't, but at the end of the day, I think they did want to land the guy. The problem is now Sancho's never playing in a United shirt. He's never going to land up at United. That opportunity is gone. End of this season, he's going to either play for a big Spanish club or he's going to play for a City or a Liverpool. He's not. The chance for United to sign him was ripe, and they didn't take the opportunity. So it's a big blow. Cavani, is he going to do the thing? I think he'll still get you goals. He'll do well, but it goes against everything that United are pretty much setting up for in terms of building for the future. It's a player who's going to help you for one season, then you're going to have to find another player, and also hinders the development and progress of your Mason Greenwoods and your Rashfords and which blows my mind. It's very, very confusing. But I think overall, I think United will be okay with the Cavani there. I just don't think it just proves the point that the board don't back him.
The board's not backing him at all. So man, you just have to. The only exciting signing that we've made is just too bad he only arrived in January. Amad Diallo. He's obviously an 18-year-old from Atalanta, Ivory Coast, young kid. He's one of the top 3 under 18s in Italy currently. He should bring some sort of excitement, but also you don't want to put too much pressure on such a kid. He's definitely not someone that you want to be like strengthening your team now, something for the future, you know what I mean? So, and that's what Solskjaer needs, someone who's going to come into the team right now and make some change. But the board was never going to back him in that regard. And he's set up to fail. And I don't see him lasting the season.
All right.
It's a big one.
Nick. No. We're saving the party for last. Nick.
But, I think I've spoken already. I'm pleasantly surprised we signed a couple of players. Players with a bit of experience from the Premier League. So, I mean, signing a Burnley player, I don't know how good that is. Jeff Henrik, he looks all right. Plays for Ireland. Callum Wilson, I think is the one we needed. We spent 40 million on Jolinton, Brazilian striker come winger who has really failed. I think he's actually playing all right on the sides, but I think it's just a waste of money, and it's a waste to really give him the number 9 shirt, which is generally for someone who bangs the goals in. And obviously, the famous number 9 in the Northeast is big for the fans, big for the club. I think Ryan Fraser will be a good signing, the Scottish lad on the side. And I think the combination between him and Wilson will be quite key, because I think when Bournemouth were firing in the last couple of seasons before they got relegated, that combination was really good. So I think with what we have, we'll have enough. I'm slightly disappointed we let go of one of our centre backs, Florian Lejeune. We put him on loan, and I think he was one of our better centre backs. And I think if we get any injuries, I mean, Jamal Lascelles has gone backwards under Bruce. I mean, I thought he had a shot for England at one stage, and he's just making mistake after mistake now. And he's our captain, which is just another sort of Harry Maguire situation where you look to your captain, he's making mistakes that are so schoolboy-like. So I wouldn't have loaned him out, or at least maybe sign a replacement of some sort. So all in all, I'm happy. Jamal Lewis on the left, young lad from Norwich. He's been okay. I know you said Liverpool were interested, Claude. I'm not 100% convinced with him at the moment, but I do think with the right guidance, I don't know if he's going to get that from Bruce, but I think he might evolve into something good, especially because he's not afraid. He's very direct. He likes to get down the line and put some crosses in. So all in all, not too bad. I think Marcus said something about the Arab owners. If we got the Saudis in, I think this would have been a whole different ballgame. I think Edison Cavani would have been coming to us.
Yeah, you guys all excited for nothing, man. I felt sorry for you guys, man. You guys were getting excited. People were...
I don't get excited anymore, bro. This has happened 5 or 6 times for me, so I don't believe it until I see it. But I think we would have been speaking a different sort of conversation. Maybe Bale would have even arrived at us.
He probably would have afforded him, maybe.
Yeah.
I
But
think
yeah,
story with the
Alright.
take of Newcastle for me was the funniest one because everyone was immediately digging up like human rights abuses and all of this stuff. Like these people are terrible. The rest of the world is like, yeah, they shouldn't be involved. Everyone in Newcastle was like, he's still better than Mike Ashley. Just bring
yeah.
him.
100%. We don't care about those other issues. He's better than Mike Ashley.
I mean,
Yeah.
you saw Mike Ashley's reaction when you guys were awarded that penalty and got that point. He was like, yes, I can add like an extra £10 million on my asking fee now.
Yeah.
That's what he was thinking. He was like all like
100%.
Mr. Smithers from Simpsons vibe. Like, yeah.
I think I've said it before, though. It's just tough because he's not even a Newcastle fan and he doesn't really care. He actually supports Spurs. It's just fun for him. So, yeah.
Oh, shit. Okay. Wonga. Come on. Get the party going, my man. Get it going. You landed the player you guys were after. Apparently for 7 months.
Yeah, I remember beginning of the year, I heard the Liverpool. I was actually when I heard that they were close to signing him, I was actually quite surprised. I wasn't really following the story, but again, I was happy because I truly believe that's one area we need to change. Is Shaka, and then we can start moving forward. Because I think about it, I mean, like, I know. Look, I don't have anything against the guy as a person. I think he's a cool guy, but generally on the field, I just don't think. I mean, if he's a defensive,
because Wonga hangs out with them on the
can the guy
weekends and they
defend?
share beers. That's how I know. Yeah.
No.
I would have something against him actually.
About the guy.
As a fan, man, like as an Arsenal fan, I'd actually have a few issues against him. Given the antics that we saw from Shaka last year, where he was walking off the field in the likes, it would peeve me off to see that coming from one of our players.
Yeah, no, it's true. And again, you see that's the thing. The frustration that he's caused is play with the people is that I think they're just frustrated, not at him, but just the way he plays. But like I said, what say he.
Ew.
He's
We lost him.
Okay. Forward swap, put the guy. Yes.
So what Wonga's trying to say is that
when I came back. But anyways, yeah. But
you're back. Keep going.
Yeah. I was saying it's just for me. It's straightforward. Put Wate there, and let's try to build on the other positions. I was also not. I see Lucas Torreira. I'm not sure if he did leave, but he was also looking on the way out. He looked like he was heading to Atletico last time I checked.
Yeah, he did. Yeah, he did sign Atletico.
Yeah,
that's a big loss.
You see, and he would have. If Partey gets injured, you've got only one option, and it's quite sad. But yeah,
it's El Nini. You got El Nini.
Yeah, I'm not talking about El Nini will play there, but next El Nini is gonna. If Partey's not there, they're gonna have to play Shaka, and that's So, and I think even the other front, Willian.
Party, man. They must play Ceballos, man. Ceballos has been playing well. I watched him against Portugal yesterday. He played well as well, so I feel that that's midfield.
He looks very promising. Not promising. I think he's actually the right person instead of. I just think we should try. We've tried Chaka now for years. I think let's try something else now. In that midfield. Our strikers. We've got Pepe. I think he has, for me, like, I think he still has a lot to offer. There's a lot more he could offer as a player as well. Nicolas Pepe. I think he could score a bit more goals for us. Can he do it against Man City? Can he do it against the Liverpool? That's the question we need to ask if he wants to. If Arteta says he wants to win the Champions League in 3 years, I think those are the questions he needs to ask those players. That's for me.
I remember the Edu had an investigation into the signing of Pepe on how Arsenal spent 72 million. So obviously he came in as a sporting director and he said the first thing he wants to do is to look into the signing of Pepe and saying, how did we spend 72 million on this guy?
I don't know about that, but that's actually a good question. It's quite a bit of money to spend on. Pepe's not a bad player.
But to be fair, Wonga, you saw what he could do on the weekend. Like, if he's confident, if he's backed, he's still young. There's potential there. Is he? You're gonna sell him more than 72 million pounds? Probably not. But there is something there. But the party thing it's great because at Atletico Madrid he was a very good player for them. And he does a little bit of everything. He's a very good defensive player. He's very good going forward. He's got an eye for a pass. And he did well in a club like that, very well organized. So now if you're going to draw parallels between Atletico Madrid and you're going to draw parallel with what Arteta's trying to do with Arsenal, again, very organized. Difference is in how he can excel is the fact that he's coming into this Arsenal team and he's going to be the main man. Now, at Atletico, he wasn't the main man. So here he can really, the opportunity is ripe for him to become the guy that Arsenal look towards. And if it works out, then you guys are going to have a serious player on your hand, which comes to my next question. Guys, who is going to be the players who has the impact on the season for the Premier League in terms of the signings?
So aren't you commenting on your own team, man?
I mean, I can't comment on my team.
You got Tiago, which is for steal even.
Yeah, well, I'll let you guys talk about the guys at Liverpool brought in. Let's see. Let's go.
No, but then the question is, for instance, on a Gomez, for instance, you remember when we were talking about the whole centre back issue about the partnership of Van Dijk and Gomez? It's good, yes, it's great, but then what happens when? Are you going to always rely on Fabinho to come in? Because I don't know how long is Matip's injury currently?
Yeah, Matip's always on and off, so you can't even say he's going to come back in 2-3 weeks, and then he's out for another 4. Then he comes back for great 5 games, then he's out for another 6. So yeah.
So I think maybe you guys just short one defender. I think that would have made it and a backup goalkeeper would have made it a perfect transfer window.
Yeah, exactly. A nice little backup. You could say a backup goalkeeper would have been perfect. I think Fabinho can do the job at centre-back, which is why they haven't tapped into the market. There's also another youngster by the name of Williams who's had some game time. He's actually just made his under-21 England cap now, so he's doing all right. So they're not desperate in that sense, even though, I mean, Gomes is walking around like this after the weekend's game. But, it's one of those things. They did sign the most important player in Tiago in terms of giving us something different. The thing I'm more concerned about is the thing that Liverpool have seemed to have signed during this window is COVID, because now our third player has been diagnosed with COVID. So that's where I'm worried. Yeah, I'm worried about that, to be honest. So yeah, but back to this thing. I want to talk about who you guys think transfer of the season.
Meets Thomas Partey, man, literally, because it happened in the last couple of hours of the transfer window. And listen, man, I watch a fair bit of La Liga football, and when I watch that guy playing with Saúl Niguez in the midfield for Atletico, that guy is a midfield enforcer. That guy, he can do anything. He can dribble, go past the player. He's got a great shot for a free kick. That guy is a great signing. I would say that is one of the best signings I've seen. And I would have said also Timo Werner is a great signing for Chelsea, man. I think that guy, even though he hasn't scored in the Premier League as yet, but there's some good stuff coming from that guy, man. He's the way he's so direct in his running, and he's clinical, and he scored 95 goals in the last three seasons for Leipzig. I think that will definitely be another one. So I would say Partey and Werner.
Cool. Wonga?
Wait, I forgot Tiago Alcantara. Sorry, man. Hey, no, that's
okay. But you've only got to pick one. You got to pick one.
This guy's going for 10 options.
Yeah, it's option A, B, C.
He's sick with COVID. I forgot, man. Hey, Tiago Alcantara, man. That's a midfield general. That's a person who changes any game. So I'm just mentioning people who are gonna do well.
Mr. Ashley Young over here. Ashley Young was the player where when there was a 1-word answer required, he wrote comprehensions. The man.
I say Gareth Bale. I think the guy fit. Is happy, and I think happy is the most important one here. I think if he's like that, he'll be dangerous, especially at Spurs. Yeah, that's for me.
Okay.
What the heck was that? Yeah, that's me.
See, then Wonga was the inverse. When there was a comprehension, the Oak wrote one word. Who do you think? Who do you think?
For me, I'm thinking about it in terms of the player that's going to give me the most bang for my buck, and then it's kind of, for me, it's a toss up between Ollie Watkins and Callum Wilson. So I just think for the sides they've joined, they're just perfect for the system. If you look at what Wilson's done at Newcastle, and you touched on it a little bit, Nick, that Joe Linton's now moved out to the side. He's moved out to the wing, which is actually his preferred position. And I think what you probably see is you guys are going to have what we had with Sissoko. With Sissoko's first season, he was an empty shirt. And I every time he was on the field, I was just, what are we doing? And then in his second season, he was a revelation. And now I love it. He's an amazing player. And I think Joe Linton's going to do that for you guys because you're finally playing where you want to play. And Wilson will speed that up. And he's going to be banging goals. You know, for I think it's going to bring back the fun to Newcastle. The same with Ollie Watkins for Villa. Because now it's freed up Grealish. He doesn't have to do everything. Grealish isn't doing create everything, score everything, sing the theme tune, wear the mascot uniform. You know, he can just do his job on the field, and it helps having Barkley there too. And I think for what they bring to their sides, for me, those are the two signings that are really going to provide the most. And we might not see either Newcastle or Villa eventually in the top 4 spots. You know, but I think for the way they're going to change their teams, they're going to be the most valuable. I mean, you expect James Rodriguez to play well. You expect Tiago to play well. You know, even Partey already talk he's the new Barreiro, which may or may not give him an unfair amount of pressure, but you expect these players to perform. But Wilson and Watkins are going to actually change their sides and other players in their team. And I think for that sense, for me, those are the really most shrewd kind of buys in the offseason.
Marcus agrees with you.
Yeah, Marcus agrees 100%. I see that. I see that approach of like thinking of the most impactful players that do come into a team, but I look at it in a sense of like the quality of the player that comes in and the value that you purchase that player from. If you look at a player like Thiago Alcantara, he's just won Champions League. He is a pivotal role in that. He was a pivotal role in that Bayern Munich team, and he literally came to Liverpool for a steal. And that's why I think he's probably the best signing of the season, because it was cheap. He could have went to any other club in Europe, and he decided to go to Liverpool, and he went for a price tag, which was Chelsea signed players like Havertz, Werner, Ziyech for more than Thiago Alcantara, and they still all kind of have to prove themselves, where Thiago Alcantara is a finished product coming over to Liverpool and joining. His amount of impact at Liverpool might not be as significant, but he's going to be joining the best team at the moment, and it's very difficult to show that impact. But for the price that they got him at, for the general entertainment of watching the English Premier League, I think he's the best signing of the transfer so far.
You're talking about the impact, but he's already come up with that stat with the most passes in 45 minutes that he's played in the Premier League. He's already got a stat to his name.
First 45 minutes. Yeah, but like, it's crazy, man. Like, I think he's like, it's the same as a Pogba type of signing. These guys are literally went from Champions League finals, winning the things, but the type of price tag that they paid for Alcantara is not even close to Pogba, which is so that's why I think it's a bargain and a half. And
I'm gonna agree with Wonga though. I think Gareth Bale, for me, I just think he's hated his life playing football for the last 2 years, or not playing football.
Playing golf.
I think there's an opportunity. Yeah, he's playing golf. So I just think he's still got it in him. I mean, I'll never forget after he came back from Wales and they had that whole flag incident where it said, what was it, golf, Wales, golf, and Madrid in that order, and then he went to go play for Madrid. He came off the bench, and I can't recall who it was. I think it might have been a Champions League game, and he comes off and he cracks the crossbar, and he was getting booed the whole game for like 20 minutes that he was on. And I just saw, like, when he turns it on, he's incredible, and he's so powerful. And I just think, from what I saw of Spurs and what I think Mourinho's got in terms of a project, if you want to call it that, taking on a team from maybe mid-season last season into a full sort of pre-season, if you want to call it that. He's molding something that that is his, and it's that it's not really Poch's anymore. And I think wanting Bale in that, I think they had a decent relationship when he was at Madrid. So I personally think that will be very very key for any success that Spurs will have this season.
Yeah, good point. Good point. And I'm going to wrap this up with mine, and it's going to be in and out. And I think it's going to be Ross Barkley. I think that's going to be a hell of a player for them. I think a Grealish has been dying for a player like that, and he's got him. And I think he's going to do the business for Villa, and Villa will probably end up mid-table, not relegation candidates. Sello, don't worry. Next, what do you want to say?
But that I think also that is Barkley's level. I think at Chelsea, man, he didn't. He just
shine.
Step too much, man. He was
but
great.
In Chelsea, look, if you're a player going to Chelsea, it's difficult. I mean, if you watch the recent Fernando Torres documentary, he speaks about it, and he was a star when he went to Chelsea, and he couldn't find his foothold there because there's a lot of names out there. For Ross Barkley, he excelled at an Everton where he became at that time or still is kind of a smaller club. He's a big guy. Main guy. I mean, he is physically a big guy, but he was the main guy there. And now he's joining a Villa where he's going to become the next best thing next to Grealish. Yeah. So I think it's gonna work for him. And I think to Marcus's point and what Matthew was saying is in terms of most impact, I think Barkley's going to be it. So yeah, and don't worry about Sello. Our teams are going to bounce back with a win. We'll probably see one of the other guys come back with a sad face. Nick, whatever he lands up with, he generally rocks up with a beer and a smile. So we good.
We're going to beat Man United next week. Don't stress.
All right, it's been real, guys. Thanks for joining me. I'll see you guys next week.
Peace.
Cheers.
Cheers. Bye. Stick around.